Hi, my name is Emma Wantling. I'm a Food Service Insight Manager at AHDB, and together with my colleague Grace, we will take you through three key areas of insight for the out-of-home market. We're going to start by sharing how you can access red meat out-of-home volume data through the AHDB website. We will then move on to the key trends for menus in 2025, and we'll finish by looking at how we can best communicate the benefits of British meat through menu innovation. To understand out-of-home purchase behaviour for red meat, we work with Kantar, who have a panel of 7,500 consumers across Great Britain. These consumers record all out-of-home purchases on an app when they're buying food and drink, to eat in a venue, to eat on the go, or for a takeaway. This gives us a depth of insight around three key topics. Firstly, who is buying the products? What are their demographics? Age, social class, region, etc. Secondly, what are they buying? By protein, so beef, lamb, pork, chicken, fish, etc., or by dish. So we can look at the trends, for example, of what's happening with sausage rolls. What about lamb kebabs? What's new in the world of burgers? Finally, we can look at where they're buying it. Is it for eat-in, on the go, or takeaway? And we can deep dive into each channel, such as hotels, restaurants, pubs, and coffee shops. At AHDB, we have the unique ability to take the Kantar data and use it to estimate red meat volume sales for out-of-home purchases. We can compare this with retail sales and combine the data to give a 360-degree understanding of red meat volume sales. If you're interested in this data, you can access it directly from our AHDB website. We have dashboards dedicated to out-of-home volume sales. Here on the screen is an example for beef. We have the equivalent available also for pork and lamb. In this section of the presentation, I will explore 6 key trends for menus in 2025, covering value for money, sustainability, healthier eating, experiences, global cuisines, and then finish on quality and reputation. Before I dive into the detail, I just wanted to give a call out to 2 of our data providers, Lumina Intelligence and Mintel, and on the screen are the key reports that underpin the trends that I will cover in this presentation. So the first trend we'll look at is value for money. In 2024, we started to see a rise in consumer confidence. This plateaued at the end of 2024, and we saw a dip down in January this year due to economic uncertainty in the country as a whole. In January, we saw 76% of consumers remaining concerned about the cost of living, only 1% down from January last year. With this in mind, when thinking about eating in a venue or ordering a takeaway, we see that consumers are prioritising saving money. This is seen across all age groups, but is particularly true for the younger age group, 16 to 44-year-olds. We can also look at the situation from a menu perspective, diving into main course menus for pubs, bars and restaurants. For pubs and bars, we see evidence that the economic situation is driving changes to main course menus, with lower cost chicken dishes growing over the past 3 years and the more expensive seafood dishes seeing declines. The pattern is less clear for restaurants, but we do see an uptick in cheaper chicken dishes in 2024. A special call out for lamb, where although volumes are small in food service, they have seen a rise in offerings on menus in 2024. So how are consumers coping with the economic situation? We see that consumers are using a range of different approaches to save money. So for example, buying meal deals, ordering from a set menu in a restaurant, ordering the cheaper end of dishes, or taking advantage of collection-only deals. So for 2025, it will be important to think about how to capture budget-conscious consumers. Think about offering low-end meal deals for those on a squeezed budget. From a meat perspective, ensure menus include affordable meat options. Also think about small trade-ups that can tempt consumers to spend that little bit extra. So for example, taking a classic staple like a burger and offering it with different sauces. As one example, the Hungry Horse offers a cheeseburger chili dipper. This is essentially a standard burger, but served with a pulled beef chili and spicy cheese sauce, which consumers are encouraged to dip their burger into. However, price alone is not enough. We know that consumers are looking for perceived value for money when they select a dine-in venue. One way to tap into this is through reward schemes, seen as particularly motivating for younger 16 to 34-year-olds. Think about building perceived value for money through free offerings on chosen occasions or specific menu items. Think about gamified rewards, such as the example from Bella Italia, Spin to Win. Think about special discounts, competitions, and money can't buy experiences that can also drive perceived value for money. The second trend focuses on sustainability. Sustainability is a hot topic, and we see in general that consumers are expecting food service outlets to do their part for the environment. Top of mind is how food venues deal with food waste, but topics like reducing single-use plastic, using sustainably sourced food, and using renewable energy sources are also in consumers' minds. We see that young diners are leading the way in sustainable dining choices. 16 to 34-year-olds are seen to focus on buying end-of-day sale food and bringing their own containers to restaurants for leftovers. It's key to show your sustainability credentials, demonstrate how you manage your food waste, showcase sustainable produce, and encourage the use of own containers for leftovers. An inspiring example is the Silo restaurant in London, which is a restaurant without a bin, doing everything they can to be zero waste, not just only in the restaurant itself, but within the supply chains feeding the restaurant. As they say, waste is a failure of the imagination. Moving on to healthier eating. 90% of consumers state that diet is important to their overall health, and 64% of consumers claim that they often or always eat a well-balanced diet. If we think specifically about red meat, we see that around a third of consumers think that pork, lamb, and beef are important for a balanced diet. These meats are also seen as a good source of protein. Beef is seen in particular as a good source of iron and vitamin B12. However, we do see that a third of consumers say that it is healthier to eat at home. So how can the food service industry build healthy credentials? One way to do this is to create customizable menus that allow consumers to personalize the dishes to meet their own dietary needs. In 2024, 35% of dishes on menus were customizable. This rose to 56% in quick service restaurants, who are leading this menu change. So think about how you can build customization into your menus. From a meat perspective, reduce processed meat offerings and instead offer balanced healthy dishes with lean primary meat. An example of a restaurant that focuses on customization is Attis, where consumers build their own bowl of food by choosing different selections from a wide range, including powerful proteins such as beef. Trend 4 is experiences. We know that consumers are opting to spend money on experiences rather than material items. And from a food service perspective, consumers are looking for more than just a plate of food. 80% of consumers want to try something new, and 1 in 4 Britons are interested in restaurants hosting pop-up events. So think about how you can excite consumers and attract new consumers. So for example, showcase guest chefs, organise street food events, competitive events, and thrills. An example street food company is Cheesy Pig, a family-run Lincolnshire catering business that focuses on street food, hearing pulled pork and serving it with modern twists. Consumers are also drawn to venues that explore unique flavour combinations and different cooking methods. Think about options such as live cooking with fire, customizable spice levels, unique combination of ingredients, or experimenting with different sauces. The Humo restaurant in London embraces live cooking with fire using a 4-metre long grill, where all the dishes are prepared using a selection of widely sourced woods, all used to cook with and impart subtle flavour differences to each of the dishes. Moving on to global cuisines. British cuisines are still a favourite, but the desire for global flavours is on the rise, with 37% of 16 to 44-year-olds interested in culturally diverse menu options. There are many different trends coming through. I've picked 2 to look at in this presentation. So firstly, Caribbean dishes, which appeal to 18 to 34-year-olds. Here trends focus on fusions of Caribbean food with other cultures. Soul Mama fuses Caribbean with African influences, such as Trinidadian doubles, fried flatbreads with braised beef and African spices. Carabindi fuses Indian and Caribbean together, such as using Indian dahi as a topping to the Caribbean soul bowl. Healthy twists and on-the-go Caribbean dishes are also seen to be on trend. The second cuisine focuses on European dishes, Spanish, French, and Italian, particularly interesting to very young consumers. Trends focus on the Basque influence, such as meat grilled over hot coals and served as tapas-style dishes, or modernizing bistros with innovative dishes with a twist. The final trend focuses on quality and reputation. We see that 56% of consumers prioritize food quality when eating in or ordering a takeaway. However, only 8% of dishes on mainstream pub and restaurant menus feature a provenance claim. So how do we best communicate the quality of red meat to consumers and help to build reputation? To answer this question, I'm going to hand over to Grace.
Thanks, Emma. I'm Grace, a lead insight manager at AHDB, to take you through the research we've done on optimizing red meat messaging on menus. For this research, we worked with an insight agency called The Nursery. Within the research, we tested a range of menus and dishes with differing descriptions, pictures, and logos to understand what appealed most to diners and monitor how their behaviour changed. This research focused on restaurant and pub menus and occasions. We did the research in 3 stages. First, a qualitative workshop with 16 customers to understand what influences people to go out to eat and understand what their ideal menu could look like. We then created and designed the different menus, and we tested this through a quantitative online survey with over 1,000 diners. There are 3 areas of key findings from the research. First, understanding the mission your consumer is on and tailoring the menu for this. Secondly, there are multiple touch points which a consumer may interact with before they even sit down in the restaurant, so how can we utilise these? Finally, communication around meat quality and taste are the most effective at boosting reputation credentials of red meat. So if we start by looking in a bit more detail at the target audience. When consumers are looking to eat out in a pub or restaurant, spending time with family is the main driver. This is followed by treating and celebrating, so quality time really is the key need people are looking for when they're going to eat out. When consumers are looking to eat out in a restaurant or pub, over half of consumers choose where they want to eat in advance. And 3/4 of those people look at the menu before dining out, showing that the menu is a key touch point for shoppers looking to decide if they want to eat in your restaurant. They are also looking at the menu to check prices and decide what food they're going to eat in advance. Within our research, we identified 3 distinct meal occasions when consumers go out to eat, and the mindset and needs for each of these are quite different. For romantic meals, couples are looking for a more premium experience and atmosphere. This type of occasion, they're looking for something more special and something which they may not usually cook at home. When celebrating with friends, there are a few more areas which people are considering, as there's more people to please. They want an inclusive menu where people with different dietary requirements, tastes, and budgets can all find something that they would like. Checking the menu is a more functional check rather than to get excited about the food for this occasion. Then finally, the family meal, where good value food and family-friendly atmosphere are the key things that consumers are looking for. The meals need to be nutritious for the children, but also a treat for the parents. As we've seen from that previous slide, although the needs for these occasions are different, pleasant atmosphere is something which all groups are looking for. Quality ingredients is the second biggest influence over restaurant choice, and this increases for those customers who often or always choose red meat with their meals. If we now move on to the second key finding around the multiple touchpoints diners go to, we saw from the previous section that 3/4 of people check the menu before going to a restaurant. So is there messaging which we can use to boost our perceptions before people even make it into the restaurant? Within the research, we tested different descriptions for the same dish on menus. Menu A, where the description was shorter, and Menu B, where we gave more information on the meat sourcing and provenance. The more descriptive menu significantly boosts consumers' perceptions of the dish, making them think it was full of flavour and giving them reassurance on health and sustainability of the dish. However, did this impact how much diners were willing to spend? Unfortunately not. The average price willing to pay was the same for Menu A and Menu B for the pork belly dish, and was actually £3 lower for the steak dish. We believe this may be due to the health messaging on the menu, which can have negative impacts on consumers' perception of the quality. However, we did see more consumers trading up into these dishes, choosing them more often on Menu B than on Menu A. There are many other touch points where consumers look for information, so making sure you have the right and up-to-date information on your website and social media channels can help consumers to find the information they're looking for. Meat preparation messaging is expected on menus, but also to be available from staff, so there may be a need to train staff on this detail if they are not already up to speed. From the research, we found consumers were more likely to look for health and sustainability messages on websites than on the menu. We also saw earlier that some of these messages can have a negative impact on perceptions and don't boost the key drivers of taste and quality. Therefore, we don't recommend including these in the dish description, so we need to look at where else these can be communicated. So rather than through sustainability and health messages, we need to communicate the taste and quality of red meat to boost the reputation of red meat on menus. When presented with the menus and asked to select which areas signalled meat quality to them, logos and accreditations were clear indicators. Standards and Britishness combined was meaningful, with the Union flag, Red Tractor logo and RSPCA logo being trusted and intuitive icons. While consumers may not fully understand these accreditations, they appear to simplify a message and act as a stamp of approval. We understand that applying these logos and names can be difficult to menus in practice. However, the results show that when committed sourcing takes place, these are really beneficial and help to drive those perceptions of quality towards the red meat industry, the food itself, and the pub and restaurant. We can also use wording in the dish description alongside logos to boost quality perceptions. Information around meat sourcing and provenance are clear indicators of quality. Organic and free range are associated with higher quality eating experience, while outdoor reared and grass-fed also impact quality perceptions, even if not fully understood. A local butcher reference can play a role in indicating quality too. Butchers are perceived to handle and process higher quality meats. When asked who they are most likely to listen to when it comes to promoting British beef, lamb and pork, butchers were the highest scoring, although there is also a role for farmers and bodies such as the Food Standards Agency. However, the butcher's role should be via name and description only, as people do not want to see an image of the butcher, instead preferring images of the food itself. So in summary, pubs and restaurants have a vital role to play in protecting and promoting the reputation of red meat. Menus are an important source of information, but they should not be used in isolation, making use of other key touchpoints like your website, social media and staff for information around health and sustainability. As menus should focus on the taste and quality credentials, we saw that descriptions alongside accreditations and logos reassure diners and boost their perceptions of the quality of the dish. More descriptive menus reassure shoppers not only on the taste but also on the quality, health and sustainability of the product. By talking about British and provenance, we can communicate these without explicit messaging. By boosting these perceptions, some people may trade up into these dishes, so we can impact their here and now, as well as the long-term perceptions of the industry. If you have any questions, please do let us know, and also recommend looking at the AHDB website for all of our information on food service trends.